For 10 weeks, COVID ravished my body and made me depend on Jesus. And it started just coming home from work, feeling horrible. That night, Carol took me in for a COVID test.
Upon receiving the news of our positive tests, obviously Mike got sick first on a Saturday. I tried to stay away from all day Sunday, mowing the lawn, staying outside. I knew I was going to get it, but so Monday, sure enough, I felt sick. And I went and got tested. By that time, he had called me and said, I'm positive, and I knew I would be as well. But it's funny, when we got home that day and we were both positive, this is how naive we were. We're sitting there going, oh, we're going to watch movies. We're going to take walks. This is a mini vacation at home. We're going to do all these projects. It's like a 2-week mini vacation because we knew we're probably going to feel good in about 3 days, like the normal flu, and then ride it out. Boy, were we wrong. Wrong.
Yes.
Instead, we began a journey unlike anything we've really ever experienced.
By end of the week, she's getting better. I'm getting worse. My doctor wants me in the hospital. My oxygen levels dropped. And when we got to the hospital, I had to kiss her goodbye. We did not know whether we would see each other again. I kissed her on the cheek. She had tears coming down. I think I did too. And I thought she drove off, and I felt probably one of the times I was the most alone in my life I've ever been.
So driving him there, I was shaking. I was really, really scared. And of course, I'm still positive at the time, even though I was feeling a little better. I wasn't feeling great, but I knew that obviously I couldn't go in. No one could go in. It was just drop him off. We hugged and kissed goodbye, and I was crying. He was trying to act really strong and like, I'll be okay, don't worry. But I knew he was worried. And just walking him in there alone, I sat in the parking lot a very long time. He didn't know that. He thought I drove away. I believe I did drove away, but I parked, and I just sat there and I prayed. But I had these visions like of the news clips where you would see, the people going into the hospital, and then they'd be put on a ventilator. And how can I communicate with him? How can I even find out how he's doing? Just all of that. So it freaked me out. So he either called me or texted me, I don't remember. About 6-7 hours later, he said, I think they're releasing me. You can come and get me. And I'm just like, are you kidding? I mean, I was happy, but even more nervous. So apparently, the good thing through this is that Mike could always breathe. I mean, he was terrible and he was short of breath and sick, but I do know by asking him and by watching him that he could breathe. So I think that was his only saving grace, not being admitted and being put on a ventilator.
They gave me a choice.
Yes.
Because they said, the COVID is in your lungs. There's nothing we can do. You either can go home or you can stay here. And I asked him, I goes, well, what are you going to do? He goes, nothing. So there's nothing you can do. You have to ride out. You have to beat the virus. We can treat the symptoms. We can't treat the virus. Got out of the hospital. I thought I had peaked. I thought, okay, Carol's getting better. Now, I should be. How wrong I was. I didn't know it, but I was going to be an underdog in a fight of my life. They say by day 10, you either get better or you go severe. Carol got better, I got severe. It's a good thing she did get better because she had to take care of me.
Satan was really attacking me a lot through this, like, you're not qualified to take care of him. He needs to be monitored. He needs this, he needs that. What are you going to do? And I did have a lot of doubt. And I didn't want to show Mike that because I knew he needed me to be positive, so I just stuffed all those doubts and feelings inside and tried to stay strong.
The lowest temps I remember was 103.9 for them days, and up in the mid to upper 104s. It's kind of like having the flu, the worst flu we ever had, times 10. The pain level was excruciating. Back pain, neck pain, migraines so bad that my eyelashes throbbed. And I didn't know that was possible. My doctors offered me, they wanted to put me on pain pills, and I said no. I said, if it quits hurting, I know I died. I remember Carol having me move. She was packing me in ice to get the fevers broke down. I was losing my will to live. I didn't have anything left. My fight had gone. I think Carol was scared to sleep at these times for fear that I wouldn't be there when she got up. They wanted me back in the hospital, and I said no. I said I wanted my last kiss. I didn't tell her this till later. I said I wanted my last kiss. Something me and Carol has always did for years is there's a song by Frank Wilson and the Cavaliers called The Last Kiss. It's about a couple out on a date. They get in a car accident, and he gives her her last kiss before she dies. And every time we have left our house, we kiss like it may be our last. And I knew if I went back to the hospital, I wouldn't get my last kiss. I'd rather die than miss that and die alone.
I saw him progress and get worse, and I was very anxious and nervous all the time. I didn't want to show him that. I tried to act really strong. Again, we had to take his temperature pretty much every couple of hours. Every 4 hours there was Tylenol. I wore out 2 thermometers. I had thermometers lined up all over the house because I wouldn't trust one, and I would go, oh no, that's too high, let's try this one. You know, the thermometer became the tiny enemy, I call it, in our home. I had read a lot and tried to educate myself on what could happen, and I knew by what I read that things could change very quickly towards fatal. And that really scared me because he was really too sick to know, maybe, am I going to get fatal? I mean, I had to watch that.
She had made a book with me and my grandson when he was like 2 and 3 years old. And she would take and just hug that book and just pray to God that you can't let him die. Don't let him die, Lord. These grandbabies need him. And she would tell me that. She would come to me and she'd just look at me and she'd go, you have 2 little grandsons. They need you. You can't die in them. Do not die in them. When I had nothing left, she'd give me a thread, just a thread of hope. And when I mean I had nothing, I mean that was it.
This one day or night, I don't remember, when I was laying there just, a wreck. The Spirit of God really spoke to me. And he said, Carol, you need to change your prayers. You need to pray, thy will be done. I mean, it's in the Lord's Prayer. Don't we say it? Do we mean it? Do we really want to pray it?
That'll test your faith.
I did not want to pray that prayer. It scared me. But I've been a Christian since I was 13 years old, so ultimately I knew God's will no matter what. Even if it didn't line up with what I wanted, his will was the best. So I needed to give up that desire to control this outcome and utter those words. So I surrendered and I prayed those words, Lord, thy will be done. I couldn't really say, if you take him, I'm good with it. I just could say, thy will be done. And immediately, he was waiting for me to pray that. Because immediately I just felt all that anxiety and that fear just leave me. It was a huge turning point for me being able to care for him better, but more than anything is I got peace. Because I did not have peace for a couple of weeks, and I really did. Even though we went through even more sickness and, packing him with ice and doing all that, I had peace. Because God's will is the best for us.
On day 7, and the day before I went to the hospital, I'm laying on the couch. It is dark. I'm staring out the big bay window, and I don't know what time it is, and all of a sudden Jesus is standing in front of me. I know I'm just in awe. I'm speechless. I'm frozen. I can't move. He just looked at me, and I just stared in reverence. It is amazing. He reached out and he took my hand with his nail-scarred hand. He let me feel the scar. He looked me in the eyes and he said, "Are you ready to come home with me now?" I was still frozen in awe. I seen the road that we was going to walk down hand in hand if I'd have said yes. I just looked at him and I said, "I want to say goodbye to my sons and daughter-in-laws. I want to hug my little grandsons goodbye. I got a 1-year-old and a 6-year-old. I wanted to feel that little arms wrapped around my neck. And I wanted to kiss my wife goodbye. And I said, I'm ready." At that point, he knew I wasn't ready to go. He was preparing me to use me. If I wasn't going to go, he was going to use me, and that's great.
So at this point, he was sort of over the really bad stuff, and we knew you're gonna survive. I mean, unless he changed and got worse, but I think we could tell he was gonna survive. And we had been told by the health department, you have to go 3 days with no fever and no Tylenol. And we're like, yeah, we can do this, now that he's over the really, really sick part. Well, I had no idea that this was gonna last for weeks, this fever. And that's when he started exercising. I was really proud of him because he still had a fever.
I'd put a headset in, I'd just start praising and worship music, and I would exercise 3, sometimes 4 hours a day, 21-mile bike rides. I mean, I was pushing myself hard as I could.
But he would go most parts of the day without it, and we'd think, yeah, this is going to be, and I would go, this is going to be the day. Didn't I say that all the time? I'm going, I got a feeling this is going to be the day. It's not going to come back. And as I said, that little enemy of a thermometer, a couple times we didn't even want to take it because we're like, let's just not take the temperature, But we had to, and we just had to because we had to know, and sure enough, he'd get it again every night. But after 50 days, the fever finally left for good. And then we were able at that time to go and get retested. I hadn't got tested since then, even though I knew I was negative by that time, but we thought, let's do this together. We're going to go. This is like a mini date now because we've had, 2 months.
First time I've been out in
2 months,
54 days.
Yeah, 2 months. It was like weird going to Cairo, We're like, wow, we can drive through and actually get like an ice cream cone, We didn't want to get too excited because I do know that Mike thought this could still be negative. Still could be positive result. And I wondered that myself. But we had to wait 6 days because obviously when we got tested, they were doing a lot more with testing all the nursing homes, so you couldn't get it in 2 days. So the 6 days kept it was torture.
It was an eternity.
Yes. So the phone call came. Actually, I was going to head out the door and go to town. I was out of isolation at that time, but still extremely cautious and careful because of living with him and being with him. But the phone rang, and it was his result that he was negative. I remember screaming, wow. And it's like it was crazy. It was joyful. We thanked God. But then our head was spinning. What are we going to do next? It's weird when you've been that long and then all of a sudden you have a choice of what to do. We almost were scared to do anything. We were in that little bubble of isolation. But we missed our family so much. We couldn't wait to hug the grandkids. One thing I know for sure is I'm thankful that we went through this together. I'm thankful that we got COVID because it brought us closer. It made me realize I could have him retire and be with him. Wondered that. Made me realize I think I can handle it. And we're really thankful for the Lord, even though we had valleys that were so low, we always felt him with us, even though I was scared and I was anxious and I didn't have peace until I prayed that. I always felt him with us.
Pastor Randy Thurman said it best. He filleted me for weeks. My faith is at a different level, but it comes at a cost. I've been challenged by Satan different ways and different levels. I would go through it all again. I would take the COVID. I would do everything of it again for a touch of that nail-scarred hand and to look in his face again. Through this, I've had hundreds of people telling me they was praying for me. But there's some key ones that stand out. A friend of mine told me, he said, I'm not a believer, but I'm praying for you. There's another man we know, told Carol, he goes, I prayed for Mike last night. This guy has no church affiliation or nothing. A friend of mine's wife called me when she had heard about what had happened and Jesus visiting me, and she goes, I got to know this. Today, she reads her Bible every day. She talked to me and Carol, and she reads her Bible. We got her set with some Christian stations in her area. It changed her life. I have another farmer friend called me, and he goes, please tell me this is real. He had heard about it. And I goes, yeah, Rich. I said, it's real. He said, you're not the first one that's ever told me this, that they had seen him. He goes, I have been in church all my life. He said, I go to church all the time. He said, I am a believer. He said, I just want to know this is for real. I goes, it's real. It don't get any more real than what I had.
I think what I appreciate from everyone is the prayer, because we always felt it. We know we were getting prayed over all the time.
This church was simply amazing.
Yes, it was.
And
And
the way
our-
they took care of us, and
Yeah.
the way the prayers and everything they did through this whole ordeal.
Our friends, our co-workers, our family, everybody. I was blown away. I'm not used to that. I'm the person that wants to go take it to someone.
Let me tell you, that puts you at a different level. When you take everything else out of your world, all the things everyday things, I was so sick, there was nothing else mattered. And that just escalated my love and my faith for him. It's a whole new level now. When you can spend 10 weeks with pretty much that's it. I recommend it for everybody. Not the COVID, but go out on the mountainside, in the wilderness, wherever you got to go for 10 weeks and just praise and worship him. Take some music. I mean, it's an amazing.